Welcome to Business Innovators Radio, featuring industry influencers and trendsetters sharing proven strategies to help you build a better life right now.
Welcome back to the show. We've got a great guest for you today, and her name is Dr. Liu. She's an extraordinary sports medicine doctor. She's also an author, speaker, and a brain expert. She's an international leader in Chinese sports medicine and Chinese sports psychology. She's appeared in the USA and Canada on Fox, NBC, CTV, and Global TV to speak up proactively about concussions. And one of Dr. Joanny's major strengths is her deep understanding of the connection between one's psychology and physiology, thereby creating personalized healing plans for her clients. Welcome to the show, Dr. Joanny.
Thank you very much, Tracy. I'm very happy to be here.
Awesome. Well, we're excited for you to be here as well. So let's get right into it. Tell us a little bit more about your business and what type of customers and clients that you're helping.
Well, the people who are the best clients for me are people who are top athletes who are highly motivated to keep as healthy as they can in their sport and also in their lives, because I'm not just interested in getting them back in the field as soon as possible. It's really important that we also keep in mind that they have the rest of their life to live as well, because an athletic career is relatively short for most people. So it's very important to keep them as healthy as possible for afterwards also.
That's a great point. I know my daughter in her career between basketball and lacrosse, she actually suffered a concussion in her sophomore year, and it caused her to set out for a year as well. But yeah, that's a short-term thing, and you got to take care of yourself. So how did you get started in this business?
I'd say about 4 years ago, I started to pay attention to what had happened to a very big hockey star. His name is Sidney Crosby, and I guess he got his concussion on January 1st, 2011. And, it was really no big deal because you usually hear about things like this with pro athletes. What was interesting about him was that the doctors didn't know what to do with him. They kept re-diagnosing him because they didn't know how to treat him. And so it actually took him about 2 years to really come back. And during that time, I was thinking, geez, I wish that I could talk to him, tell him about my process. I'm sure it would work. And then in the summer of 2012, much to my surprise, I ended up treating my oldest grown-up son for a very severe concussion that actually blinded him temporarily. And he didn't, of course, tell me right away that there was a problem. He's a grown young man, has his own place. He decided that he was going to take care of this concussion on his own. But unfortunately, about 2 weeks later, he finally called me up, and by then everything had gone from bad to worse, because at that point he wasn't eating, he wasn't sleeping, he had no appetite, he had headaches almost all the time. At that point, he was an intermediate professional engineer, so he continued to work. He did not stop working, even though he decided that he was going to take out all his extracurricular activities. Unfortunately, that didn't quite work out for him, and he was beginning to burn the candle at both ends because he wasn't sleeping so much for rest. And he asked his colleagues, well, do you see any or notice anything different about me? And at that point, they couldn't, but he knew it was only a matter of time. So when he asked me for help, it was an automatic yes. And last February 2015, I was working on a Speak to Sal course, and one of the research questions that was asked of me was, what would be the outcome if your client didn't accept your offer to help them? And wow, the answer came to me immediately. It was suicide, because you may have heard that several former pro athletes have committed suicide in the last several years, and it's becoming more and more of an issue. And so that was my why. The thing is that I also realized sometime later on that if I hadn't known what to do to help my son, I can't even imagine where he'd be right now. And it's coming up to 4 years.
Wow.
Yeah, he's now totally concussion-free, no symptoms at all. He's just super.
That's an awesome story, and thanks for sharing that with us. That hits pretty close to home, absolutely. We'll get back to that problem scenario in a minute, but I always love asking this question to entrepreneurs when they come through and their rise up. Was there any particular book that sticks out that helped you along the way?
It really all comes down to the mindset. We can do all the marketing in the world, but if we don't believe in ourselves and in our cause, it really comes down to mindset. So May of 2014, I discovered A Course in Miracles. And I've been studying it ever since. So I'm not only reading it, I'm studying it and practicing all the important elements inside of that book. It's very important to work on your mindset.
That's a great point. Thank you for sharing that. I understand and I feel your passion when you had to step in and help your son, but what else drives you and gives you the passion to do what you're doing?
It really comes down to caring a lot about people. I cannot just stand by and watch people suffer. There is a solution for everything, including a brain injury. The brain is not that hard to heal if we understand how to trigger all the things that neuroscience has been studying in the last 20, 30 years. We now know that the brain is very changeable. We know that we can grow new brain cells. You know, it used to be thought that the brain that you had by the time you got to adulthood, that was the brain that you would have for the rest of your life, but that's not true. And we also know through the miracle of functional MRIs that we can actually see a state of mind, a mindset changing as we're talking to somebody. I mean, it's remarkable what the technology can show us, but it's not the technology that's going to help people heal. We have to go back to, pretty much ancient wisdom, where it teaches us that our thoughts definitely have an influence on our health, on our physical health, and of course our mental health as well. And that's why A Course in Miracles, for example, is very important.
What are you finding some of the biggest obstacles preventing people from healing from a concussion or a brain injury?
I find that what is difficult for people right now is all the bad hype, and there's a lot of scare out there, or even within themselves, there's self-doubt about whether they can actually heal or not. So again, if the mindset of an entrepreneur is important for becoming successful, it's the same thing for becoming successfully healthy again. And so we have to pay attention to what we're thinking, and we have to do something about the things that are negative that are entering into our lives. We can't just be passive bystanders in our lives anymore. That's really important.
Yeah, that's a great point. Mindset is very important.
Mindset is everything.
Yeah, it is everything. And I think, and you're right, what we're taught in traditional education doesn't elaborate on that. So it's important that you're bringing this to the forefront to these types of injuries. And along the way, have you found, besides mindset, what is the biggest pitfall that people with concussions might not be aware of?
Well, the next thing is creating an internal body environment that is healing. So as I recommended to my son and to other people who are recovering from different kinds of sport injuries, it's really important to keep the inside of the body warm as well. And so one of the things that I asked my son to do was to stop drinking alcoholic beverages. And I reassured him that this is not forever because of the ingredients in alcohol are actually slow down body functions, and that includes the thinking. Anybody who's ever been drunk or had a hangover can testify to this. It's not a very pleasant feeling.
Yeah. Any overindulgence? Sure.
Yeah. Well, I told him to stay off it until he was completely healed. And the other thing is that would keep your body warm is to eat all your meals cooked for the time being so that you're not forcing your body to heat up all that food, and use that energy in order for healing instead of warming up the body. I mean, what it really comes down to is just ordinary common sense physics.
Wow. Did you go into that a little bit about the healing process?
The healing process first needs a proper mindset that you believe that you're going to be well again, that your concussion or post-concussion syndrome is temporary. You have to believe that, just like you would if you had injured your arm or your leg. I mean, nobody's panicking over that, at least not in the news, because these things do happen.
Right.
So if you feel confident that you're going to heal, then it's going to happen for you. And then you've got to look for the correct things that you have to do in order to reach that goal, because, again, it's not about being passive. Healing is a very active process that needs your participation.
Excellent. You shared with us what you did with your son, but could you describe another situation, how you've helped someone get through this and heal themselves with having a concussion or a brain injury?
I've had several people come to me, because concussion usually has headaches, right? And so it really comes down to diagnosing why you have those headaches, because the thing is that a concussion isn't just because you got hit in the head. There are reasons why you were hit in the head at that particular point in your head and that particular point in time. So the thing is that everybody has a different reason for feeling confused. Let's put it that way. Any head injury is going to be about some sort of situation or a set of situations in your life that has caused confusion inside your mind. That's what a concussion really is. That's what a brain injury really is. And, well, actually, that's what headaches really are due to as well. It's due to confusion. So for each one of these people, including my son, we have to go in deep into a very good, deep investigation into what's going on in your life that is causing this turmoil and this confusion. So for one of my clients, she couldn't stand having people watching her while she was working, okay? And it came down to lack of self-confidence. But why was the lack of self-confidence there? The lack of self-confidence was due to what had happened to her when she was a child, when her father, she was trying to do as good a job as possible to please her dad, but nothing she did pleased him. And so she felt, as she was growing up, that no matter what she was doing and he was watching, there was nothing that she could do to please him. And the more she thought about that, she worried about it because she worried about being judged. And so having someone else in the room, which didn't matter at that point that it wasn't her father, having anybody else in her office was not a good thing because she always felt like she was being judged. And so she always had headaches in the back of her head.
That's amazing how confusion causes headaches. Is that correct?
Yes. It's major confusion. It's about not being able to make a decision, too.
Ah, I get it.
Yep. Very stressful.
Thanks for sharing that story with us. What would be the best piece of advice for you, for someone that's seeking out treatment for a brain injury or a concussion?
You mean on their own?
Yes.
Okay. So if a person suspects that they have a concussion, then they should try not to change too much unless, of course, they've already been knocked out or they have eye problems right away, okay? Because sometimes these symptoms don't happen right away. Headaches usually will happen later on, so it's a good idea to be aware of this. But the thing is first is not to panic and try to, if you have been hit really hard in the head, take a break. And if you don't feel anything unusual, then go back to doing what you were doing before. Because modern research about head injuries and concussions is actually saying that telling a person to go into a dark room and do nothing for a few days to several days is actually either causing the symptoms to get worse or to prolong them, and can also make people more susceptible to depression. And that, to me, is because when somebody is left alone like that to their own thoughts, a lot of times their thoughts are going to go turn to something bad, okay?
Right.
Happen to them, right? That's why the mindset is so important. So it's actually more important to get back to something as normal as possible so that your mind is actually occupied, but don't force it. If you find that doing something makes it worse, then, cut back on that or stop it. Do the other things as you find is normal. And again, if things get worse, cut it back. If it gets better, then keep doing it. Or, we need to get back into life because if we get afraid, then we're just going to make things worse because that's what stress does to the brain.
Yeah, very real, where you say not to go into a place like that by yourself, especially with that type of injury. I had a close friend that suffered from PTSD, and it didn't end well. So very good advice. What's the best way for the listener to learn more about what you do and how you help people? Well,
they can definitely reach me or learn more about me. They can definitely learn more about me at www.drjoanny.com or www.drjoanny.com. And in there, they will find out about some of the books that I have. I've got a number of videos and blogs in there. I also have a free gift in there. They sign up for my e-zine, which is the 5 things you should never do if you get an injury. Some very topical items in there and some very new items in there because a lot of people aren't talking about certain things, about actually keeping you from healing slowly. You should be healing a lot faster than you are now.
Mm-hmm. Perfect. So if they are ready to get started now, is there an email address or how can they contact you quickly?
I guess the other thing, if they want to get started right away, they can go to Amazon.com to find my latest book, Heal Your Concussion, How to Quickly and Effectively Get Back in the Game. And inside my website, you will find www.drjoanny.com/contact for more information.
Perfect. Well, thank you very much for that awesome information. We really appreciate you being on the show, so thank you.
And thank you very much, Tracy. It was a real pleasure, and I hope that your audience can keep as brain safe and healthy as possible.
Awesome. Well, there you have it for this edition of the show. We'll see you the next time.
Thanks for listening to Business Innovators Radio. To hear all episodes featuring leading industry influencers and trendsetters, visit us online at businessinnovatorsradio.com today.